The faint scent of antiseptic still clung to my skin, a stark reminder of the recent incision along my spine. 5 days. That's how long it had been since Dr. Eris, the surgeon, had given me strict instructions: no lifting, no prolonged standing, minimal stairs for at least a month. My husband, Leo, stood in the doorway, blocking the afternoon light, his face unreadable. My parents, my sister's family, my brother, his wife, and their kids, he announced, as if reading from a grocery list. They'll be here next Friday, for 2 weeks. I stared at him, a dull throb beginning in my lower back. Leo, I just had surgery. You know I can't manage all that right now. Can we please postpone it? He didn't meet my gaze. They've already booked their flights. It's not negotiable. Just make sure everything's ready. That was it. No, how are you feeling? No, can I help? Just a flat command, delivered with the casual indifference of someone speaking to an employee. For 20 years, I had been the silent architect of our household, the one who made everything ready. I was the one who prepared for the annual summer invasion of Leo's family, a tradition that felt less like a visit and more like a hostile takeover of my peace and my home. I didn't argue, not then. My mind was still hazy with pain medication and the lingering fog of anesthesia. But as I lay in bed that night, the house silent around me, a new kind of ache began to bloom in my chest, sharper than any surgical pain. It was the ache of realization. 2 decades of marriage, and I had become invisible, a prop in my own life, my needs dismissed with a wave of a hand. I thought about the house. My house, really. The one my parents had bought, the one I'd grown up in. When they passed, it came to me, not to Leo and me. I remembered signing the papers, Leo distracted on his phone, muttering, "That's great, honey," without looking up. He'd never asked to see the deed. He'd never needed to. In his mind, it was our house, and by extension, his family's summer retreat. My hand drifted to the nightstand, where the bottle of painkillers sat. I shook one out, then paused. No, I needed to be clear. I needed to think. Instead, I reached for my old laptop, its screen a pale rectangle of light in the darkened room. I wasn't looking for recipes or cleaning schedules. I was looking for the digital copy of the deed, tucked away in a folder I hadn't opened in years. There it was, plain as day. My name, only my name, sole owner. The words were a cool balm on the burning ache in my chest. It wasn't anger I felt, not exactly. It was something deeper, more solid. It was clarity. The next morning, after Leo left for work, I made a call. Not to a caterer, not to a cleaning service. I called Evelyn Hayes, the attorney who had handled my parents' estate. She remembered me, remembered the homemade shortbread I'd brought to her office years ago. I explained everything. The surgery, Leo's family, his dismissal of my recovery. "I need to protect myself, Evelyn," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. "I need to make sure this house is a place where I can heal, not a hotel for 12. Evelyn listened patiently. "You have options, Clara. Legally, you are the sole owner. That gives you significant leverage." We talked for an hour. By the time I hung up, a plan was forming, intricate and precise, like the stitches in my healing back. I wasn't going to argue. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to act. Over the next few days, I moved with quiet determination. I called a local contractor, the one I'd been meaning to hire for months to fix the leaky roof and update the guest bathroom. "I need the work to start next Thursday," I told him, "and I need it to be extensive enough that the house will be uninhabitable for at least 2 weeks. He was surprised by the urgency but agreed. I also arranged for a temporary, fully accessible apartment for myself through my insurance, a place where I could truly recover in peace. Leo, oblivious, continued to text me updates about his family's travel plans, about Aunt Beatrice's dietary restrictions, about his nephew's need for a gaming console. Each text was a tiny pinprick, but I felt nothing. I was a calm sea, preparing for a storm. Thursday arrived, the day before the great family arrival. The contractors' team descended, a flurry of tools and tarps. The roof was stripped, the guest bathroom gutted. The house, once a symbol of my endless labor, was now a construction zone, loud and dusty and utterly uninviting. I packed a small bag, my recovery apartment key clutched in my hand. As I walked out, I left a note on the kitchen counter for Leo. Due to unforeseen circumstances and necessary repairs, the house is currently uninhabitable. I've moved to a temporary recovery apartment. You'll find the address and keys in the attached envelope. I suggest you make alternative arrangements for your family. I let Leo's first 3 calls go to voicemail. His voice on the 4th was tight, laced with a fury I hadn't heard in years. "What have you done, Clara?" he roared. "My parents are at the airport. They're asking why they can't come to our house." My voice was calm, almost serene. "I've done exactly what my surgeon asked. Leo, I'm recovering from major surgery. I told you I couldn't host 12 people right now. You said no one was waiting." A long silence stretched between us. "But the house, the repairs," he stammered, clearly scrambling. "The roof has needed fixing for 2 years," I said, my voice unwavering. "And the guest bathroom has been leaking for months. I hired a licensed contractor to do work this house has needed. My insurance is covering my recovery housing. I understand I told you 5 days ago that I needed you to postpone this trip, and you told me no one was waiting." He hung up. Next came his mother, Eleanor. Her voice, usually a commanding presence, was shrill with indignation. "Clara, do you have any idea how humiliating this is? We drove 8 hours. The children are exhausted. This is completely selfish of you." I didn't argue. I had spent 2 decades trying to reason with Eleanor, a woman who believed her desires were universal law. Instead, I sent her a photo of my discharge paperwork, the surgeon's restrictions highlighted in bold. No lifting over 10 pounds, no standing longer than 15 minutes, minimum 4 weeks recovery. Then, a simple text: "This is why. I hope you all find comfortable arrangements." I turned my phone face down. I later learned through fragments Leo let slip that the arrangements were a chaotic scramble. With a major convention in town, hotels were scarce and exorbitant. He ended up booking 2 suites at a Marriott an hour away, at a cost that made him wince. He was the one fielding complaints about the distance, about the lack of a proper kitchen, about his nephew's forgotten gaming console. He was the one driving his parents to a pharmacy for forgotten medication, and his sister's kids to a mall because they were bored. I wasn't there to see it, but I could picture it with unsettling clarity. I had lived it, invisible and unthanked, for 20 years. There was a quiet satisfaction in knowing I was not the one solving it this time. In my temporary apartment, I focused on healing. Physical therapy, short walks, reading novels I'd started months ago and never finished. The silence was a balm, the solitude a luxury. On the 3rd night, lying in the narrow bed, I felt a profound sense of peace. I wasn't punishing anyone. I was simply, finally, not disappearing. By the 5th day, Leo's texts began to shift. The initial accusations gave way to a grudging acknowledgement of the chaos, then a hesitant vulnerability. "Aunt Beatrice is complaining about the hotel coffee," he texted. "Dad just spilled juice on the carpet. I don't know how you do this every year." I smiled, a genuine, unburdened smile. He was seeing it. For the first time, he was truly seeing the invisible labor I had performed for 2 decades. When he finally called on the 7th day, his voice was different, softer. "Clara," he began, I think I understand now. I really do." We talked for a long time. He apologized, truly apologized, for his dismissal, for his blindness. We agreed on a new policy for our home, a policy that should have been in place years ago. No more open-door policy. Any future visits from his family, or mine, would require both our agreement in advance, with clear expectations. Guests would help with groceries, clean up after themselves, and respect that this was our home, not a free hotel. The real test came 6 weeks later, just his parents this time, invited properly with 2 weeks' notice. Eleanor arrived with a homemade pie, something she had never done in 20 years, placing it on the counter with a careful, almost timid gesture. My father-in-law, Arthur, gruffly complimented the newly repaired roof, a silent acknowledgement of the changes. Later that evening, I overheard Leo on the phone with his brother, who hadn't been invited this time. "No, Mark," Leo said, his voice calm but firm. "Not this time. We're keeping it small. You're welcome to visit, but you'll need to plan it with us in advance, same as anyone else." I looked up, surprised, and found Leo watching me, checking if he'd said the right thing. I nodded, just slightly, and he nodded back. Months passed. Autumn painted the trees outside our window. My back was fully healed, the brace long since packed away. Then, one Tuesday evening, my phone rang. It was Eleanor. I almost didn't answer, out of old habit, but I did. Her voice, when it came, was smaller, almost tentative. "Clara," she said, "I was wondering, would next Saturday be a good time to visit, just for the afternoon? I'd call ahead, of course, and bring something for lunch, if that's all right with you." I stood in my kitchen, the late afternoon light coming gold through the window. It wasn't an apology, not in words. Eleanor, I suspected, would never quite manage those, but it was something I had waited 22 years to hear. A woman who had once treated my home as a birthright was now asking gently, humbly, if she might be allowed to knock. "Saturday would be lovely, Eleanor," I said. "I'll see you then." This story is a work of fiction. Any resemblance to real people, events, or places is purely coincidental.